The intent of this video is to present the essential aspects of Insight Maker necessary to complete the certification exercises should you choose to do them in Insight Maker. Remember that I said you can do them in Insight Maker or in Kumu, either one doesn't matter. The choice is yours. If you decide to do it in Insight Maker, here's what you need. Go to insightmaker.com and get yourself a username and password so you have an account. And once you log in, you'll end up on a screen that looks like this. Click on Create New Insight. Once you do that, the first thing you want to do is go up here and click Save and give some title to this insight that you're creating. You can add tags if you want to, you don't need to, and then write some description of what this model is supposed to be about. Now, the reason that you do that, I'm just going to call this test some stuff. Once I save it, notice that this goes from solid to dimmed. That means that it's saved. Now that every time you make a change, it will go ahead and save it. So this is just so you don't end up initially with a blank screen. It's some information about building a model, but you can just click here to clear that. Notice that this became darker and then lighter again, meaning it just saved the change that you made. Over here on the left is a list of primitives. You can use all of these things to create models with. The only thing that we're actually going to use is a variable at the moment. Well, a variable and a picture, but a variable. Now notice over here on the right is the configuration panel for this primitive, and it tells you a bunch of things, but the only thing you're going to need is the name and the note. So it selected this. You can click in here and rename this. The alternative is that you can double click on the title on the primitive itself and name it. The alternative is you can right click on the canvas and select an item from the drop down. The advantage of doing the drop down is that the label's already selected. So I'm going to call this Jerry, and you probably already realized that I'm in the process of creating Tom and Jerry, which is one of my favorite models. Once you create two or more entities, you need to connect them together, and we're going to connect them together with links, not flows, because that's for stock and flow simulation models. We're just going to use links. So once you select link, notice that when you mouse over this, a little arrow appears. Draw from the source to the destination and let go, and it gives you an arrow. You can then go to Style and change the color of this to blue or red, which is what I use all the time. And you can also go over here and say that you want it to be a solid line, and you want it to be a line width of 5, which is what I usually use. And once I do that, I can also go over here and say use this as a default. So now the next one I draw will look just like this one. So I have a connection between Tom and Jerry. A couple of additional things that are probably useful is if you select a link, hold down the Shift key and click on it, it will put waypoints on it. And you can then use those waypoints to reshape that link as you desire. You can also hold the Shift key and get rid of a waypoint. It deselects the line when it does that. The alternative is to select the end of the line, disconnect it, and reconnect it, and that turns it back into a straight line. When you create another variable, something else, you can move, once you select a link, you can move it from one to the other, move it back. You can add additional links. Notice I said that they're all blue because that's the default, and I typically set blue as the default because I have more blue ones than red ones, and then I can go up here and simply change the line color to minus, and whatever this structure is that I'm developing is immaterial. It's just an exercise. So you notice that every time I change something, it gets saved, so you don't have to worry. Your model is saved. And if you go back to Insight Maker with this Insight Maker Home, notice that the model that you have just created is the first one here, which is your model, and this will be all of your models in reverse chronological order that you created them. So when you sign back in again, you can select it and it will open it, and then you will know that the model that was just created was number 24,168, and I can close these tabs. Now, the other part that you will find useful is when you actually end up creating something that's a loop, you define that with a picture, and you can then label that as R1 growth or whatever. You can put some label on it. You can change that label either here or over here, either one. And once you select it, you can go to the picture primitive, use the built-in images, and say that this is a clockwise or counterclockwise reinforcing loop. And that's where you get the images from. So there are images there for both the clockwise and counterclockwise reinforcing loops, clockwise and counterclockwise balancing loops, which are the only ones that you actually need to be able to identify them. Now the other piece is that every entity that you create in InsightMaker, you can add notes to. So notice over here in the configuration panel is this note field. You can type notes in here, and once you actually enter a note, when you mouse over something, this little eye shows up, says there is a note. And if you click on it, the notes show up. If you select this field and click on this down arrow, it actually opens you a note editor so that you can type in notes, and there are a bunch of editing characteristics that you can use with this field or in this configuration, in this note editor window. And the alternative way that you can get there is once you select something, do a control period. Well, usually, let me reload this. Control period is supposed to open. All right. This happens from time to time. Because I have dozens and dozens of windows opened, typically, my browser gets messed up and I have to clear cache from time to time and reload things. So control period. Well, maybe Scott took this out. This seems like a bug. I guess I have to talk to him about that, because control period was supposed to open the note window, but I guess at the moment you just have to go over here and select the down arrow to open the note window. And I'll check with him and see why that's broken. But that is essentially what you need to develop all of the exercises for this course in InsightMaker. And if I left something out, ask a question and I'll see that I plug the gap. So hope you found this useful. And to get rid of anything, all you have to do is click on it and hit the delete key, or you can use the functions from over here and delete it from here. So I'll see you in the next video. Bye.